This is the as raw breakdown for Errol Spence versus Terence Crawford. I took my time with this one. I really watched a lot of fights, watched fights over and over again. And it's tough. It's tough when you get guys at this level and they're facing guys at this level, right? You got two guys that are facing the best guys they've ever faced. So it's hard to say how they're going to react or they might have to pull out new tricks in their bag that we haven't seen before, right? So it's hard to predict, oh, he's going to do this, and it's something we've never seen before. So you don't know what's going to look. It's really hard to predict what's going to look like when you get into the ring. Now you go off the last fight. You got Spence versus Ugas, a fight that he dominated. He broke down Ugas. I didn't think he looked his best. I didn't think that. I thought maybe we saw some signs of slowing down, but not major signs, just some signs, right? A little bit balance issues, right? It was like the main thing, balance issues. With Terence Crawford, the Avenesian fight, which is hard to make anything of because it could just be a fight he's using to almost like a sparring session, almost as a get right fight, almost not a get right fight. It was coming off a loss, but like a tune up just to get the rust off, just to work some things that he was looking to work out, right? Get a little active, and that fight's kind of like what you take from it. But there were things where he was getting hit in that fight, and we know that Terence Crawford does have defensive flaws. I thought the most concerning thing for Terence Crawford in that fight was just like the back step, because I thought he could move back maybe one or two steps and still be quick, but it was like that second step where Avenija kind of keep pushing him back that he would kind of fall apart. Didn't look like he had the legs that he once had. Right now, like I said, these aren't huge declines. These are just minor adjustments, but those minor things can make a fight look way different than maybe it would have looked 2 years ago, right? Maybe it would have fought a completely different way 2 years ago than what it's going to fight now. Now, I'm a big thing about, fighter's prime. It's really hard to predict what a fighter's prime is because, yes, physical prime, you can say, he's not the same physical prime that he was at this point, but that doesn't mean that's you at your best, right? Because physical prime and your mental prime are going two different directions. And when they meet, to me, that's when you're at your best. So right now, Terence Crawford, to me, he's never been a smarter fighter, right? He is his style down. He's seen all these different looks. He knows exactly what works for him in a fight. Same thing with Errol Spence, who knows his game through and through. I think he's defensively better than like when he fought Cal Brook, where he was at maybe physically he was getting into his prime, but I don't think mentally he was in his prime in that fight. And now I think he's a very smart fighter, more defensively sound. I think way more ring IQ, and they just, like I said, see more looks, way more experience in the ring. So, like I said, they might not. I don't think these guys are in their physical prime. I don't think they're far out of it, but I don't think they're in it anymore. But I think that the ring IQ, their experience, and all that, if you add all those key factors in, they're very, very good fighters. And I know people are gonna want to say, "Oh, this fight was too late. We could have had it way before." They're still the two best guys in the weight division. Now, do you have young guns coming? You do, but they're still the two best guys in the weight division. So it's hard for me to say, we got this fight too late. It's like, well, we're seeing the two top dogs in the weight division fight each other. Then it's not too late. It's not too late. And I think that you might not be the fight that we would have saw 2 years ago, but that doesn't mean it's going to be a lesser of a fight. It doesn't mean that we're seeing, two washed guys. That's not what that means. It's just, things change. Physically, you adjust your game to your physical capabilities. A lot of guys get better, right? And they get less physically, but they figure out stuff to make them sharper in the ring, and it's easier for them. We look at LeBron James as he played basketball and as he got older. At certain points, it looked like he wasn't even had to rush anything. It wasn't looking like he had to sprint any moment. He was just so smart on the court. He just knew where the openings were going to be. He knew the right positions to be at, and that's what I believe you're going to get with these two guys. Now, what's the fight going to look like? What am I predicting it's going to look like? Or what are the strategies that we're going to get into for these two guys? Now, let's get to Errol Spence, who's the southpaw. And he has way more of he works off forward momentum. His offense is forward momentum. But his movement isn't exactly forward momentum. His movement is more like a current, like a wave, right? It's like this. It's like this. So he gets in his stance and he's guard and he touches you, and then he steps back, and then he's getting back and he's putting pressure on you, but he's keeping a good range, right? So if you're gonna do something, he can just step out and right here. Now, he isn't a side-to-side fighter. He's not a fighter that wants to move a lot laterally. He'll give you an angle to exit, but it's very tight. Everything's very tight what he's doing. He's working on this thing, but he's more straightforward. I like to say like fencing, right? You got a guy like Terence Crawford, and Terence Crawford is they're both wide stance, but Terence Crawford is more wide stance for offense, not defense. He's not necessarily, defense is not coming first in his mentality. Everything's offense in his mentality. Now, he has defensive skills. He's not defensively unaware, but he really believes in his precision. He believes in his timing. So Terence Crawford is more this style. I want to see, you want to put my hands in place thing, and I'm going to take a step back, but my step back isn't, oh, I'm going to get out of everything coming away. No, my step back is, I want to give me a little bit more time to measure you in, to get you in here, and then I can make you pay and punish you with the shot that I'm coming in. See, when Errol Spence moves backwards, it's not offensively, it's purely defensively. He moves backwards, I'm out of range. Now, let me get back and get my forward momentum. He wants to get forward momentum. He wants to get you falling back, and he wants to, like, he wants to come with like a pressure on you. Like he wants to boom, boom, and you're falling back thing, and then you get out, right? That's he's a work forward pressure like that. When Terence Crawford is more precision, he more plants. He wants to plant when he's gonna hit you, right? So even when he jumps in, he never like really fully jumps in. He's more, I step in your range, but I'm trying to see everything you're doing, and then I'm gonna catch over the top or under, wherever opening you're gonna give me. Defensively, like I said, Terence Crawford isn't, it's not the first thing in his thought process when he's fighting. And I think that his guard is very susceptible. He's also can be hit very cleanly in between his shots, because like I said, he's looking for a shot. So often he'll throw a shot. Now this shot's looking for something else, right? And he's staying here, wants to see everything you're doing. So when he does that, he leaves openings right here. And then he's like, come over here. And this hand's over here looking for something maybe to come under, come over the top. So this leaves him like this. This leaves openings, right? He's like this. He leaves openings. I'll punch here. I'm looking for the next shot here. There's openings that he's gonna leave you. In between, you can punch in between shots. And he does get caught in between shots. Errol Spence, who is more close guard, he's coming here. But he does, he often leans like this. He often works his way here, right? Where he's here, and then in between shots, he kind of like loses his arm sometimes. He'll get it here. His defense is at his best is when he's not punching. His defense is at his best when he's not coming forward. He's a guard here and he's blocking all your shots. He moves back and then back in and here, and that guard, that's when his defense is at his best. Both guys in between their punches can be got. Now, the thing with Errol Spence you have to account for though is, I don't think he has one punch power, right? As far as like, that's the way his power is. But people have different types of power. He has very thudding power. And what you notice is a lot of guys change their game plan completely when they start feeling his power. Or they get very defensive, or their body just falls apart when they start feeling his power. So he definitely has power, and it definitely could change what your perspective is when you're in the ring, right? And what you're willing to do or what you're willing to stand in with. And that's the hardest thing to account for in this fight. Because it's hard for me to say what Terence Crawford is going to react to that power. But from everybody else, they didn't react well to it. They either fell apart, or they got very defensive, like Danny Garcia, or eventually, if eventually like broke him down, like the Porter fight where he gets dropped, Ugas' face falls apart. A lot of these fighters just completely crumble to the thing, or even like Mikey Garcia was like, wasn't even willing to take a chance in the fight. So it's really hard to predict what is Crawford gonna do when he starts feeling those shots. Is he gonna stay in there like he usually does? Because he really does need to stay in there to be effective. Now, I see a lot of people say that Errol Spence is the only one of these fighters that can win a decision. And that could be possibly true just because his work rate. If he's able to go a full 12 rounds, you have to imagine he's gonna outwork Terence Crawford. So he'll win a lot more rounds. But what if Terence Crawford is able to hurt Spence? Now, maybe Spence has survived, but he's been hurt multiple times over rounds. Then Terence Crawford's gonna win a lot of rounds, and maybe Spence will have to stay more defensive. He won't be able to be as aggressive, right? Maybe his punch rate will go down. Maybe that's the way that Terence Crawford can win a decision. Now, the fight that really stood out to me, and I just rewatched it again, was Kell Brook versus Errol Spence. Now, I said Errol Spence wasn't his smartest in this fight as far as like experience, ring IQ, and as he's just like really grown into the level of fighter that he is. But in that fight, he really struggled with Kell Brook's skill. And if you remember Kell Brook fighting Terence Crawford, they fight in a very kind of similar way because they fight on a lot of precision, timing, and placing their shots. So when Kell Brook came in on Errol Spence, he was able to pick shots from him. And when he was able to stand in there and really, very comfortable at seeing what he was doing, not afraid, and very, very good reaction time, and very good, seeing the openings, he was really able to pick apart Spence. And Spence, who gets stuck, and this gets stuck here, right? He's in his guard, and then he'll punch here and get stuck. He was getting hit, and his legs, while good at times, but when you get him, like everything flowing together, his legs can fall apart, and he can get really unbalanced, right? And that's what Kell Brook really took advantage of. He was able to pick shots. What I see with Terence Crawford is he could do a lot of things Kell Brook could do, probably a lot better than Kell Brook, or slightly better, but with way more power and way more precision. Another thing that Kell Brook doesn't really do is doesn't have a good backstep, right? Kell Brook is more, I'm standing in the range, and if you come in, I'm gonna catch you, right? I'm right here. I'm like, he's like a cobra, right? Like he's like a cobra. I'm here, got you. I'm here, I got you, right? That's what he does. Now Terence Crawford does that too, but what Terence Crawford can actually do is take a big step back and then make you walk into that too as well. So that adds a whole new dimension, right? So if Kell Brook was able to have a lot of success early in that fight against Errol Spence by just this one part where he's just able to pick his spots and see the openings that Errol Spence was giving him, well, Crawford could do that too. But another thing Crawford could do, that Kell Brook couldn't do, and he fell apart kind of because of it, was he could take the step back. And when Errol Spence, what he had to do in that fight was really bite down. He had to really just kind of dog Kell Brook out. And when he was able to do that, was because Kell Brook couldn't move off the spot. So he could really, if he was willing to walk through shots, he could. And he could kill Kell Brook's body and get to his head eventually and push him back. And it was just out of brute force. It really was. It wasn't like he was doing stuff with great skill or anything like that. He just said, I'm just going to break you. And he did. He eventually did break Kell Brook. But the problem with that, if you're going to get in that spot where you're getting hit and tagged in a certain spot, and then you're just going to try to dog a fighter, well, a fighter like a fighter like Terence Crawford, who's going to be able to, okay, I'm just going to rush in and I'm just going to pull forward on him and walk through his shots. Okay, you walk through a shot, but then he takes a step back. You got to walk through a whole nother range of shots. This allows him to work again. That's very tough. And like I said, Kell Brook doesn't have Terence Crawford's power. Errol Spence's mentality is, if he's losing a fight, he's gonna lock into like, all right, I'll just outdog you in this fight. If we need to go to war, I'm gonna go to war. I've seen him have that. I've seen him do it multiple times. Terence Crawford is a guy that truly believes in his offense. And if he gets hit and he starts feeling shots, he's gonna bite down. I think this fight turns into a lot more of a war than people are guessing. I think this is gonna be a way more of a phone booth fight. I don't think Terence Crawford could walk back the whole night, because I think eventually the momentum will be too much. He'll get caught with too many shots, and then that his pride and his just trying to be effective in the fight and realizing that I can't win this way because he's applying too much pressure. I'm giving him everything he wants. He can just keep moving forward on me. He's gonna stay in there. And if you notice, when he beat Avanesian, it's when he stood in there, right? When he decided to take over the fight, he stood in there and said, okay, I'm gonna take a shot. I'm gonna apply my pressure now. I'm just gonna pick shots on the inside. And that's when he, to me, looks most effective in that fight. I believe eventually, maybe he does try to move back early. He feels the shots and says, okay, I gotta stay in here with this guy. And Errol Spence, to me, will be, if he moves back or tries to block or anything, I think he'll get tagged up. I think the shots that Crawford's gonna offer are gonna, he's gonna beat him to the spot. He's gonna be too precise. He's gonna see too many flaws that Errol Spence has. One thing I want to talk about before I get to the final result of what I think how this fight plays out is Errol Spence gets stuck here, right? And I think that if Terence Crawford were to stay orthodox, it would really help him, because the front foot placement, if he has his leg, if Errol Spence is coming in on this stance, and he's got to move this front leg in, right? He's got to move that front leg in. It's harder to move forward if you want to come forward, which he wants to do in the fight. If Terence Crawford is orthodox and has his front foot with him, he doesn't allow him to step in. If he doesn't allow him to step in, that allows Terence Crawford to make him pay. And Terence Crawford doesn't need to come forward. He just needs to be and stay in range. So being able to keep front foot, he can play that game with him. He can play the game with him and not allow Errol Spence to get that full step in. Because if Errol Spence gets on the outside of his foot and gets a full step in, then he's in all the range he wants. but it's not as easy. Now, if they're both southpaw, Errol Spence could easily make it way easier for Errol Spence to step in. Doesn't have to worry about the front foot. I think that Terence Crawford is going to be too precise in this fight. I think that if he can stay southpaw or orthodox, it'll really help him. I think Errol Spence gets stuck on this position a lot. I think he can really make him pay if he can get to this outside of Errol Spence's foot and force him on this way. I think Errol Spence will kind of fall apart. If he's orthodox, if he stays southpaw to southpaw, it's going to allow Spence to get in more. He's going to do a lot more effective work, but I still believe the precision shots will always be there. I always compare Terence Crawford to a really good hitter in baseball. The more pitches he sees, he's bound to make contact. And Errol Spence is going to give him a lot of pitches to see. And some of them are going to be fat. And I just find it really hard to believe that Terence Crawford, with his precision, his timing, is going to see this many pitches and not be able to make contact on one that's going to end the fight. I'm going to pick Terence Crawford in the 7th round stoppage. I think it'll be definitive. I think early on, Errol Spence will have a lot of success once Terence Crawford starts moving backwards. I think he'll land a lot. I think that'll make Terence Crawford stay in the fight. I think that'll make him stay in front of Spence. I think you're going to get a very, very good action fight in right in each other's range. But I think eventually the shots will just mean too much from Crawford. It'll look a lot like Brook, but with a lot more power, a lot more precision. And I'm going to pick Terence Crawford to win the fight. And I believe he has the Ezreal curse now. So like I said, if he's an elite fighter, he'll beat the Ezreal curse. If not, we got another victim. Thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe, retweet, all that good stuff. This is my breakdown for this fight. I got more coming. We got, it's a huge month for fights, so I'm gonna have to do one of these every week. I need to do one for Stanionis, Stanionis versus Virgil Ortiz, so that'll be coming too. Thank you guys for watching.